The KUDZUKIAN Network presents Grindset, inside the mind of successful entrepreneurs with your hosts, Cynthia Daniels and Williams Brack.
I think sometimes we overplan things and that can kind of cause a delay or setback. But I would definitely say dive in, get your name started, get your website up, get your business cards.
But you're going to learn from a lot of amazing people what kind of pitfalls that they have, the challenges, but what really made them successful, what made them keep going.
Grindset.
Grinding all my life, sacrifice.
Welcome to another episode of Grindset. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels, Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels & Company.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack, asset-based lender at First Tennessee Bank.
And today's guest is Dr. Nicole Garner Scott. She's the president and CEO of Amount Financial Services Agency. She actually is an Atlanta native, so I got a chance to meet with her.
Shawty.
And we're super excited to have her now as an official Memphian. And since moving here, she's really created an enterprise that really educates people about finances.
Yeah. Back in my financial planner days in Atlanta, she and I actually crossed paths.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we sat down and talked about money, and she referred me to some people. So I'm very interested in hearing her journey from how she pivoted from the PR with the Garner Circle to Amount Financial. You've been listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we got Dr. Nicole Garner Scott up after the break.
Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Jazz, America's own original musical art form. When did it start? Who were and are some of the major players? How do you distinguish what kind of jazz you're listening to? We talk about the great and lesser-known artists, songs and tunes, the instruments, and the social impact jazz has had on world culture since its beginning at the start of the 20th century.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN Grindset.
As promised, we have Dr. Nicole Garner Scott, President and CEO of Amount Financial Services Agency. We are super excited to have you here today.
Hey, Dr. Nicole.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are very excited to have you. You have so much to offer to our listeners out there, and we're just going to jump right into this interview. So tell us a little bit about your company and what exactly you do.
Sure. So my company, Amount Financial Services, is really focused on helping our communities really change their money story. So we do everything from traditional money services, helping you with your credit, helping you with your life insurance plans, all those different things. But then also we do a lot in the money coaching space. So a lot of us have been misinformed, either growing up from our parents, parents, etc.
Money is kind of taboo, right?
Exactly.
We don't talk about that in
households. And so really helping you to understand the money trauma that you might, be holding, that's helping you, that's encouraging you to make some of the wrong decisions that you might be making, but then also just really helping you understand your money journey, your money language, how you like to spend, all those different things.
Okay. I think that's an amazing mission. I think a lot of us have been misinformed over the years. I know I was one of the ones in college that got the credit card because they were giving out free T-shirts, and that stuck with me for a while.
You still got that T-shirt?
Who knows? Was it really worth the amount of debt I was in?
Right,
though?
right.
So how did this company even get started?
So I have been in the space of entrepreneurship, I like to say, ever since I was 5 years old.
Oh, wow. She's taking us way back.
The way back machine.
But I'm not going to go too long.
Okay.
But I started off being, with the lemonade stand. I was the candy girl at school.
Okay, with the 9 laters.
Yeah, 9 laters and the lollipops and the hot fries. And that was my experience to money in the beginning.
Okay.
And really wanting to have my own very early in life. And blissfully, I had parents that helped guide that in the right direction, because once you start to get a taste of making your own money as a child, it can go in the wrong direction very quickly.
Definitely.
So started on an entrepreneurial track very young in life, went to college to be an entrepreneur.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't see, you're a millennial then, because we didn't have that in my day.
I think it was right at the cusp of it.
Okay.
So, which I'm right at the cusp.
Just claim being a millennial. Just cut it out. Cut it out.
I think I'm a zennial.
Millennial. Continue.
And so went to school, started my PR agency. Actually, I was interning my last year of college. I was doing a project for Delta where they were recruiting young...
Delta, the sorority or the airline?
Delta, the airline.
Okay, thank you. Just checking.
Yes. So we'll get into that later.
We want our listeners to just be with you in the moment. Delta Airlines.
Delta Airlines.
Okay.
And so it was a small community project to recruit young African American boys and give them awareness and let them have experience in the industry of aviation.
Okay.
And so no one really owned that project like I did. And so towards the end of my internship, they were like, well, hey, we want to utilize you as a freelancer. We want to bring you on board for that.
Wow.
So send us over your EIN number and your invoicing and all that information. We'll get your paper on file. You'll start, next week. And I was like, great, no problem. I'll send everything over. Hung up with them and started Googling, what is an EIN?
Hey, that's a true hustler right there, right?
What is that? Yeah, what are the other things? And that is how I actually started my PR agency. So to bring you up to speed to Amount Financial, through my PR agency, I started an organization called 100 Female Entrepreneurs and started doing a lot of business coaching with a lot of entrepreneurs on a national level. And I started getting calls that were a little bit deeper than how to run my business or, how to scale my business. I started getting calls like, Nicole, I jumped out on the dream of entrepreneurship and I'm about to lose my house.
Wow.
Or, Nicole, I don't know what to do. And then I have 30 days to be able to pay my rent for my boutique or they're going to evict me.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, before we start talking about a lot of high-end entrepreneurship tracks, there was a lot of small things that weren't in place.
Fundamentals.
Right, fundamentals of personal finance. And I started delving into it a lot for my clients at first, and then just with conversations with my own family, friends, and everyone else, I was like, this is just such an element that I feel like I could have a greater impact in.
Wow.
And as I started really looking at the impact I wanted to leave on this earth, I felt like I could do more in that space. So PR was great, and I feel like I did great things in that and still continue to. But as far as like really empowering our community, I was able to do that more, and that's how I started Amount Financial.
You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We're here with Dr. Nicole Garner Scott of Amount Financial, and we're just getting a feel for the business, why you got started, and what you're doing. Now, how did you fund the business? How did it get started? Did it take much capital?
So I did. So with Amount Financial, I don't have a lot of overhead. So it was very service oriented.
Yep.
Okay.
I blissfully have, I work out of a co-working space, and I know co-working is what we're all about, thanks to the Epicenter.
That's the new word.
That's what the millennials are all about.
I mean, it's beautiful to co-work though.
Yeah.
Instead of spending $1,000 on a month, you could spend $100 a month and have something beautiful to
I
walk
like
in.
low
and not
overhead.
to-
I like
Right.
low overhead.
Exactly. And so, so the overhead is, I really just had to pay for my certifications and a lot of the legalities in the beginning, but it's not like I have thousands because it's a pretty service-oriented business. So I pretty much bootstrapped the beginning of Amount Financial.
Now, I used to be a financial planner for about 4 years when I lived in Atlanta, and I think we even met. But I found it kind of difficult to do work for people who needed it but didn't have necessarily money, and make money at the same time. And so ultimately what I ended up doing was working upstream. Most of my clients made $100,000, $200,000 a year in order for me to survive in some of the work that I was doing. So how do you kind of do good and make money?
So this is the beauty of, I tell people everything you do in your life all starts to add up. So that PR side that I have, I've been able to reach out to sponsors, financial tech partners, media partners, different things, and be able to get like our live events sponsored. So Northwestern Mutual is actually the sponsor of our Confidence Conference that we just had not too long ago. We're working with Charlie Finance to sponsor some of our digital content that we're putting out there. We're working with Stash to sponsor some of our webinars. So able to use my PR side and put it into my financial side so I can make it all
relationship
make sense and really help me serve my purpose of the people who really need help.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so with all that, right? So you have the PR business. Now you have Amount Financial that you're growing. You recently moved from Atlanta to Memphis, married and a child. Like, how do you balance? How do you even balance all of this, right? And take care of self in the process?
So balance is probably not a word I know right now.
Very honest.
I keep trying to tell people it doesn't exist,
Yeah.
So I'll give you two ways that I kind of approach life right now. So one, I had a chance to go to a brunch with Lisa Price, the founder of Carol's Daughter.
Okay.
Was a speaker, and she is a multi-entrepreneur herself, as well as a mother, wife, etc. And she said at the end of her speech, she was like, some days you're going to be the best mother you can be, some days you're going to be the best businesswoman you can be, some days you're going to be the best daughter you can be, but all those might not fall on the same day. And as long as you give yourself grace, and you don't leave any of those to go into deficit, then in the end it'll all work out to be what you need it to be. And so, I held on tight to that statement before I even got married and had children. It was something I just filed in the back of my head, because a lot of us go into life with this superwoman approach. Like, we could do it all and give me my cape and I'm going to take over the world. And that's how we burn out. And that's how we can't live and do our gifts to our ultimate potential. But then also I have this,
hold up, that was a major key. Like, I just had to say that. But go ahead. Sorry,
I have follow up. I want her to finish.
Major key, right?
There's this organization called Live in the Gray, and I got a chance to do some things with them. They're based out of New York, but basically it's saying that don't try to split your life, because it's not like you can take your schedule and say, okay, I'm gonna give 50% of my life to this and 50% of my life to that, and then whatever little time I have left over, I'm gonna, insert that in for these things. It was like, try to mix and mingle as many things as you can. So like today I have, taping the podcast, but I have my son here with me. And
you guys so adorable.
What's your son's name again?
Azai
Shout out to Azai.
And how old is he?
He's 10 months.
Yeah. He's in here with us.
He's in the studio.
Yes. And so, or even when I take business trips, I'll try to extend the last few days and turn it into a vacation. Or if I'm doing events in Atlanta, then I invite my family out to it and, hey, come, check it out. This is great for you too. Like, take advantage of this as well. And then we get to spend time during that as well. So instead of just trying to say, I'm going to do work, from 8 to 3, it all becomes kind of convoluted in its space when it makes sense,
So you're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And I'm just going to kind of segue as to what you just talked about, balance, which there's no such thing. But it's May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Can you talk about how mental health and finances kind of correlate?
Yeah, this is really good. That's a really good question, Cynthia.
Thank you.
So with it being Mental Health Awareness Month, a lot of us suffer from depression and other bouts of just going into moments of darkness, and when it comes to our finances, and a lot of that comes from money shame. So
money shame,
okay. Yes. So money shame is something that could have been imposed upon you as a child. It could be the way that your parents dealt with money. So if they always acted like money was a bad thing. Every time a bill came in the mail, it was, tears followed, or anger followed, or arguments, or, no was connected to everything. And then you have this level of money shame that you take into your adult life. And so I don't know if you see those memes all the time that talk about knowing what your triggers are, and don't post your triggers back on Facebook and whatnot. But we don't focus on what our financial triggers are.
Right.
And it's good to know what those financial triggers are, especially before you get into a relationship, married, a business partnership, any of those things where something very small to someone else could be a really big deal to you.
Right.
Now, I heard you use the phrase financial tech. Are you a tech company?
No, but we partnership with tech, and as I get into the future, I definitely want to go there.
Okay.
Just seeing what the young lady did, where she built that gaming app for helping you understand credit score for kids and those type of things. So I have dreams and aspirations of wanting to get into the financial tech space.
Very cool. And you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to jump into before we close out of this segment. You just recently launched the Confidence Conference in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
This was a 2-day experience that included fireside chats with national wealth experts, workshops, just high-level networking. So I would love for you to share with the listeners, how did you kind of come up with this concept? What is it like to just start an event that's never happened before? I'd love for you to share that with them.
Sure. So my purpose with doing Confidence was to create a holistic experience for money. So many times a lot of us are kind of pushing to one area, like the focus is just credit, or the focus is just insurance, or the focus is just debt. And it's been my experience, and you could talk to it too, you can't just do one of those areas without having the rest of them.
Yeah.
Or you'll fall backwards anyway.
Right.
And I know too, with me and Bray, you could talk about this too. Once you start to take that financial journey, you start getting a lot of access and resources to things that you may not have known before.
Yep.
And it could completely change the trajectory of where you're going with your finances. So that was the twofold. I wanted, one, to make sure that people had a holistic approach to their finances, all the way from your mindset, taking it all the way up to how
your
to invest.
Grindset. No,
Yes.
I'm joking.
Oh, yes. There we go. From your mindset to your Grindset.
I love it. Take it to the producers.
But then also, if you, just like how you were saying, a lot of people who don't make 6 figures or more, or 7 figures, to even get with a lot of financial planners, certified financial planners, there's this big part of America that has not sat down with someone, a financial guider in that space, and has gotten some true advice. We kind of get our advice from YouTube and Facebook and asking our homegirl and
friends and family is the number one source.
Friends and family, and all those different things. So this was a chance to just give resource from high level people that believed in uplifting our community, just like I do.
Yeah, you're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. And we just finished the first segment. It was great, but you did just bring up another source, and we're going to get into competition when we come back right after the break.
And I need the Confidence Conference to come to Memphis. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh, Rod was talking about that.
Awesome.
Yes, so we'll make that happen.
Okay.
Confidence Conference next year. You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We'll be right back.
Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Keeping it real, right, and funky.
Tasha Downey, that other co-host, Tasha.
In this building, I want to talk about and make some mad beats.
Well, speaking about making,
I want to
beats,
bring out my inner
B-E-E-T-S?
rap artist. Like I'm here for.
Oh, you talking about B-E-A-T? I thought you were talking about the beats.
Funky Politics on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nicole Garner Scott, founder and CEO of Amount Financial Services. If you want to hear more about my journey and experiences, check out Grindset on your favorite podcast provider or right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to Grindset. We're here with Dr. Nicole Garner Scott and a special guest, her son, Azai. They're both with the Amount Financial Services Agency. And when we left off, we were talking about, in the financial space, you can go almost anywhere for resources. The government has free resources, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, a quick Google search. You can find whatever you want. So the question is, how do you differentiate yourself from all the competition that's in the marketplace?
So through Amount Financial, we provide a track for you to follow. So for a lot of people, they're grabbing information from left, from right, from up, from down, and they're not having a strategic way to get to their end goal. They're just kind of all over the place, kind of figuring out what they can, how they can, and where they can, but not necessarily doing it with a strategy in mind.
Yep,
and then also really helping people understand how to build wealth. So a lot of people understand how to get income,
Right.
but it's not the same as building wealth.
It's not.
And so really helping to open that mindset too. And then because we're not necessarily tied to one particular product or service, we're not pushing things on people to try to get commission rates.
That's important. That's important.
And so you have to always remember the messenger whenever you're sitting down. So when you're sitting down, you want to find someone in the financial space that has a spirit of teaching and not just necessarily trying to hit a quota.
Yeah.
And so when you sit down and they're actually going above and beyond to make sure that you understand not just the area that you have a question about, but where you're going financially as a whole, then that's going to help you really get to where you're trying to get to financially and get to a space of being able to leave generational wealth.
Yeah.
Many times, a lot of us are just doing short change moments. Like, how can I fix this very quickly? How can I fix my credit really quickly just to get this house?
Yeah.
But what's after that? What are you positioning yourself to do so that you can pass your good decisions down through your bloodline, so your children and your children's children can benefit from that? Like Beyonce says, she's gonna have a lot of brown babies on the Forbes list, and I think that reigns true. If you can make those good decisions financially, then generations you haven't even had a chance to meet will benefit from that.
Yeah. And so with that, right? That sounds great and fantastic, but how do you make money doing that?
So for me, I make money in a multitude of ways. One is through our financial coaching. So we have a monthly rate that's attached to that. Then we have our membership. So for people who are more do it yourself, we provide a way for them to tap into our membership and get content, videos, downloads, everything they need to help them along their journey. Then we have financial services that we provide too, and then sponsorship through a lot of our live events and corporate partnerships.
Well, that's clutch. You know what you're doing now.
I love that.
Can't talk about making money if you're not making money.
That's right. And it's exciting to hear that you have these relationships and sponsorships, and I mean, you're making money in your company. But for those listeners that are out there, they're toying with the idea of starting a company, I'd love for you to share with them what were some of those challenges when you first started your company so they can prepare for that.
So in the financial space, it was a little bit interesting because it's such a taboo topic to talk about. And I had to really cut through people feeling embarrassed about where they were. One thing that we specialize in with Amount Financial is making sure that we understand the cultural sensitivities that people go through. We've all been through it ourselves. And so we don't want anyone to feel embarrassed about where they came from. The only embarrassing thing is to know the information and not do anything about it. So with social media, it's such a transparent space.
Right.
And so we just really had to find that sweet spot of helping people be very open and feel very comfortable in a platform that is so revealing,
right?
Per se. So getting through that space, but we've come up with some really great ways and just really empower people to tell their truth as a part of our company culture.
I absolutely love that. And so you're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. Another thing I'd love for you to share, you still currently have the Garner Circle.
Yes. And
you've launched your financial company. So how have you been able to pivot to really still operate both in such an amazing capacity? You're going back and forth from Atlanta to Memphis. Talk to those entrepreneurs that, you know, maybe they've done their company 3 to 5 years. It's not as profitable as they're wanting, and they maybe want to do something completely different. What advice do you have for those people?
Pivoting for me, and what I realized for a lot of people is some of the fear is greater inside your head than what it is in real life.
Okay.
And I really had to just kind of get over the box that I kind of put myself in.
Okay.
And I've always done a multitude of things, but I knew this was new for me, a space that, you know, if we worked together, you would have known, but it wasn't what I was putting out per se to the world. And so I just had to get past that and realize this was God's calling for me. And if, you know, God put this on my heart, then the world would just have no choice but to accept it. And so I went into that direction. And they always say, you know, pivoting is where the magic is. And as you continue along your journey for anyone is when it gets uncomfortable for you is when you see the most impact that you're leaving.
Okay. I think that's amazing advice. And one other thing I want you to touch on is the importance of networking. It's so funny that you and I met through a mutual friend from Atlanta, but coming to Memphis and new territory. And so for those listeners that are actually reside here, but they feel like, okay, I'm starting a business, but don't have any relationships. Talk about why it was important for you moving to a new city to just reach out in the community and meet new people.
It was imperative. So I like to say, instead of just networking, it's about connecting.
Okay.
And figuring out how you can really connect with people. Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and kind of had what do you call it, home court advantage.
Right.
You know, point. So it was a lot of people I work with. I went to middle school with them, or I went to high school with them, or those different things. Right. And so Memphis, it was completely new. One good thing, I just feel like everyone has a family start in Memphis. It was like when I said I was moving to Memphis, everyone had a family member here.
I love it.
They were like, you got to be my grandmother. My aunt owns a nail salon, my such and such. And I was like, great, this is good.
Right. Warm lead into the city.
Yeah, warm lead into the city. And I feel like there was this parable that talks about how this man was sitting outside of a city, and the first man walked by, and he was like, you know, what's your thoughts on this city? He was like, well, tell me about where you came from. And he said, well, I hated it. It was, you know, the worst city to come from, etc. And so the man responded back, well, it'll be the same here, so you might as well keep on going. Then the next man walked up, and he, you know, asked him about the city, and he said, well, how was your old city? And he said, well, it was beautiful. I loved everything about it. I just, you know, want to keep that same energy going. He was like, well, you'll find the same thing here. And so I think it's your mindset when you approach anywhere that you move.
Definitely your Grindset.
Yeah, yes, definitely your Grindset. There needs to be a little, like a little drop that pops up every time you say that. But in regards to moving to Memphis, it was the mindset of, one, I feel like it was God that brought us here, me and my family, and then two, it's a city with so much history and so much soul and so much just foundation that's in it, that the people are amazing if you are in the right mindset to absorb that. So connecting with people like Cynthia, connecting with people like you, just the founders of KUDZUKIAN, just meeting so many good people has been intentional.
Okay.
You know, it's
not just passing out a business card and saying, email me.
Exactly. And then too, when it comes to networking, a lot of us are always trying to figure out what we can get out of the other person. Right. I always like to approach it like, what can I give? How can I serve you? How can I help you?
That's a major key.
Major key alert.
And whatever it is that you're doing. And then when the time is right for us to work together, it'll naturally happen. Like even with me and Cynthia, we met in the beginning, but it took us about a year to actually work with each other. Right. But that was due to pregnancy and some other things. But it'll I mean, people, especially a lot of millennials, we try to force it, like force those relationships, force the working, but you have to have the magic of when it's the right time to work together too. Yep. And then when it's the right time, then that's how that beauty of it comes from it.
I love that.
You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We're talking about, you know, instead of networking, making sure you connect with people. And on that front, what are some of the challenges you've come across, being a mother, being an entrepreneur, being a wife, being a daughter? What are some of the challenges in your world, so to speak?
Well, there's just not enough time in the day.
Okay.
Okay.
I wake up each day with the best intentions to get everything done, and the day comes to an end. I'm just like, well, I did what I could do today. Yeah. You know, but before becoming a mother, I was able to knock out an unreal amount of things and tasks during a day. Yeah. Now being a mother, it's like I have to just be present in the moment, and I can only but do so much. Yeah. So just having grace with myself in that.
Especially with time, huh?
Yeah, especially with time.
I love that grace. That's my favorite word.
We were just talking too prior to us taping about, you know, just baby's not sleeping through the night. So we finally got to the point where we are sleeping through the night.
Well,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a whole new world. I never loved sleep as much as I love it now.
I absolutely love that.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, just to bring it all full circle, it's just really understanding what it is you're trying to do with your day, like setting those intentions during the day. And tasks are not your intentions. Tasks are just check boxes that you use as a blueprint so that you can keep moving throughout the day.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily defining of your day. So if I can't get everything done in a day, I don't look at myself like, oh, you're a loser, you didn't accomplish this. Yeah. It's just, intentionally I headed in that direction, and I'll just keep going in that direction.
Yeah.
That's amazing advice. And so before we close out, I cannot believe we're almost at the end. This has been priceless information. Tell us, where do you see your company in the next 5 to 10 years? And then let our listeners know how they can get more information about Amount Financial Services Agency.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, I see growth into a multitude of cities. Right now, we have presence in Atlanta, we have presence in Memphis, and we have presence in Charlotte. But we want to keep expanding that, keep that growing. Right now, I'm working with some partners to be able to create programs for our high school and college students.
Oh, nice.
Because the financial literacy starts there.
Right.
But it also can't be the archaic financial literacy that makes everybody just kind of get bored and
With the
start.
worksheet.
It's definitely boring.
Right. So we're looking at innovative ways to do that. Like just for kids now, we didn't have those conversations growing up, but kids now have those conversations because it's on their phones. The kids are looking at Shark Tank. The kids are have apps on their phones that help them talk about finances. They can get their own bank accounts through the online banking partners. All these different things kids have exposure to. So it would be unreal to think that kids aren't in a whole new space when it comes to their finances. So just being innovative in that space and capturing on that and using technology for our community. Okay. So technology has been really infused into the financial space, but unfortunately, a lot of our community is not tapping into that the way we should. Okay. So, just wanted to start, as I told you earlier, being in the financial tech space and just really helping to see that grow.
Okay. And then let us know, how can we get in contact with you? How do we follow you along the way?
Yeah.
Sure. So website is amountfinancial.com. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is all at Amount Financial. And then my personal is at Dr. Garner Scott. That's Garner Scott.
That's awesome. We learned a lot. And I appreciate your major keys because they have a theme around grace. And so this is such a fantastic episode. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you. And thank you for bringing your special guest today, too.
Shout out to Azai.
Yeah.
Listen, he was trying to make it through. He had a few little moments that you might have caught during the episode, but know that is just part of being a working mother.
Oh, that's awesome. You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll be right back after the break.
R&R on Sports is proud to be on Sirius XM.
So what's R&R stand for?
Real talk and relevant sports issues.
It's racial and relative. We're brothers from the South. We can relate.
R&R on Sports on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Welcome back to Grindset. We just finished speaking with Dr. Nicole Garner Scott, President and CEO of Amount Financial Services Agency. And she had her son, Azai, in here. And we always talk about, or we always think about balance. How do you balance entrepreneurship? How do you balance your husband? How do you balance your kid? But sometimes you just have to merge it all. And we saw that in today's interview with Azai here in the studio. And you may have heard him in the background a couple of times. But we embrace that. Sometimes you can't balance. You just have to merge it. And we were also left with some great major keys. One is, don't be afraid to pivot to a new industry. Sometimes your work experience doesn't add up with what your passion is going to be. 2, Connect with people instead of just networking. Add value to people instead of just handing out business cards from person to person to person and never following up. And lastly, and most importantly, and most relevant and most powerful, give yourself some grace. Dr. Nicole said, some days you're going to be the best mother. Some days you're going to be the best entrepreneur. Some days the best wife. Some days the best daughter. And some days it's just not going to happen all at the same time. Give yourself grace and continue to be the best of each of those that you want to be. Go ahead, Cynthia.
So for my woman power quote, I was actually inspired by the grace comment that Dr. Nicole Garner Scott made. And so my quote today says, hard days are the best because that's when champions are made. Woo. And that is from Gabby Douglas. So to Nicole's point, there is no balance. She wakes up every day. She tries to get as much done as possible. And I think that we're also critical and tough on ourselves, but understand that those hard days are going to make you that much better.
That's right. Give yourself some grace about the work that you're doing. Give yourself grace about your finances. Give yourself grace about your mental health. It's just important. You've been listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network, and we'll see you next episode.
Grindset, executive producer Epicenter, recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studios. Grindset is directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.